I will have a book that I'm going to push. It's called A Gift to be Simple. And there is information that's published by Augsburg. It might be out of print, but there is a sheet over there that Gene is at right now that has information about this book. And so it's a way for you to live simply, more simply than we are used to living. And it's a guide, and it's a really good story about a family who changed some stuff up in their lives so that they can live more simply. All advertisements, but examples are only us in all cases. If you can read it in the back, if you can, it says, God commanded us to... Oh, I suppose I could use this microphone, huh? I don't know if we've actually started yet, but it's all right. Can you hear me now? Oh, there we go. It said, God commanded us to care for creation. That's Genesis 2:15. And then Jesus called... Jesus' call to care for the poor includes care of natural resources for all the people of the earth. That's from Luke 14. And we might as well get started. I don't know if it's visible up here or not, but so, as I said, we have books around, and as we get done, you can take a look at those books and page through them. Just all kinds of examples. There's books for younger people too, Human Body, the Earth, the World Atlas, and Science are all things that kind of explain creation in more simple terms. And so as parents or grandparents or students, there's some great resources out there to help us learn about creation. What's a miracle?
What's anything?
Most anything. A miracle is something usually we consider good, right? And we don't really understand how or why it happens.
Every day is.
Yeah, that's going to be our whiteboard for capturing your thoughts. And so as we go through the day, the most important thing is not me talking, but will be us listening to one another and hearing what you have to say too. So we're going to try to capture thoughts up here on the whiteboard, and we'll use that to help us see where you have interest and passion. I will tell a little bit about myself. I want to introduce the Green Team too. Is that we have the Green Team. I'm just kind of sponsoring today's forum, but the Green Team is your team here that understands creation and the care of creation and how important it is. And so, would members of the Green Team at least wave your hand or stand up? Thank you. I would call them a pebble in the pond here, is that they're dropping a pebble, and through them they give us ripples out into us to help us understand things that are important to us and about creation. So listen to them. There's lots of opportunities. There was a rain garden discussion last week. There will be an opportunity next week. It's not necessarily through the Green Team, but it's about the boiler. And it's our energy source, and so sustainable energy is part of our challenge in the world. And so we have some challenges in front of us at church here regarding the boiler and the boiler replacement, that some of the stuff that we talk about today will be important in those decisions. When's Mother's Day? 12th of May. When's Earth Day? Tomorrow? Do we care about our mother one day a year? No. We care. Our mothers have been there for us for our whole life, every day. And I will try to encourage you to consider Earth Day as not a day, but one day where we celebrate God's love for us in all kinds of ways in creation. And so the earth is a gift to us that sustains us. And so it's not about one day that we think about Earth Day, but it is an everyday type of thing that's and you'll hear more about that as I go into that. So the Green Team is with us, and then the expectation for the day is that when I'm done talking is that we will try to inspire you to share some thoughts and ideas, interests, and passion. A little bit about me that you probably don't know is that I grew up as a kid and I was outdoor 90% of the time, out in nature all the time. I played in water. I was on we stayed at the lake the whole summer. And it inspired me so much that I went to college, the College of Natural Resources in the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. So I studied about natural resources and water, and then I spent my whole career working for the Department of Natural Resources in Minnesota here, also a little bit of time in Wisconsin, learning about managing water. And one of the things that after 40 years in that, is that our job was to try to make sure that the sustainable resources for present and future generations. And after doing that, after 40 years, I felt like after I retired, I said, I didn't get the job done. We didn't get the job done, and there's so much more. And I think that the challenge is with adults is that we get in a comfort zone and we get in a rut and we have lots of input telling us what we should be doing with our lives, and we don't like to change. And so the challenge in taking care of creation is about change and changing how we live and things that we do that will help take better care of the earth, and which is God's gift to us. So with that, I want to start with a prayer, and then I'll do a little Bible verses and a word from our sponsor. Lord, thank you for this day, a beautiful sunny day in the spring as new life comes back. You heard the messages in the sermons today, perfect examples of things, how God renews us and cares for us in so many ways. You called us in our commandments to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and to love our neighbors ourselves. And I think along the way, through our history as a culture and a civilization, we kind of got lost. And Lord, we started paying more attention to things and possessions and trying to keep up with the Joneses and have better things and more things. And we've kind of lost track of our attention to loving people, loving your gifts to us, and taking care of it. And so inspire us, encourage us to change in ways that help take care of the world and love people and things that take care of us. Amen.
Amen.
All right, like I said, a word from our sponsor. I'm going to have a reading from John, the first chapter, to kind of set the stage, and it talks about, this is about God creating the world, and then I'll do a quick reading from Psalm 139 that talks about us as people and the blessings we have. So the first one in John chapter 1 is that it goes, in the beginning, the Word already existed, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. God created everything through Him, and nothing was created except through Him. The Word brought life to everything that was created, and Jesus brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness shall never overcome it. And then psalm reading is that, Lord, you formed the delicate inner parts of our bodies and knit us together in our mother's womb. Thank you for making us so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous, and how well we know it. You watched as we were being formed in utter seclusion and woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw us before we were born. Every day of our life was written in your book. Every moment laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about us, O Lord. They are innumerable. We cannot count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And so I would like to go into those blessings. They're innumerable. And so a little audience participation is that take your finger and find your pulse in your neck and the carotid artery. You can feel that pulse. Over 100,000 times a day, our heart beats. Our heart beats to carry the blood through us that supplies us, that keeps us alive. Now take your hand and put it underneath your nose, close your mouth, and exhale, and you feel that breath. More than 20,000 times a day we breathe, and that brings in air to our lungs that is necessary for our body to function. We don't control any of these things. They happen. We don't think about it. They're there. They go on. It's just one of God's gifts for us in so many ways. And so then I ask you, I'll hit the students back here, is that what's in the air that we breathe that our body needs the most?
O2.
O2. Oxygen. You're a young student.
Yeah. Good, you noticed that.
Oxygen. And where does oxygen come from?
Trees.
Trees. Plants. And how do plants get their energy?
Sun and earth, rain.
From the sun,
Yeah.
from the rain,
Earth.
from the earth. And those plants are necessary, they produce our food. The thing that plants need is carbon dioxide, and they take in carbon dioxide, which is something we breathe out. So we breathe out carbon dioxide, the plants breathe in carbon dioxide, they produce oxygen. We need oxygen, so we breathe that oxygen back in. And so we do not exist in this world without the earth doing its thing. And we don't control plants. God created all that stuff. And so all these things are functioning, these are systems. And there's, like I said, the sun, and the leaves are like solar panels. It would be great if we could figure out how to do that. Have solar panels in our trees wired to our lights. But indirectly. So then also there is the moon. To throw that in there because the moon is a part of the creation as well. And there are waters on the face of the planet, and they flow through, and the oceans are there, and the winds blow, but the water in the earth is pulled by the gravity pull of the moon, and it creates tides and circulation patterns in the ocean, and we would be dead in the water except for the moon. And so there's all kinds of things that are going on that God created, put into place. We don't manage it, we don't control it, we don't even think about it usually, that are essential for our own life. And so I think that I want to just use those as examples of blessings that are out there that we don't think about, that we need to do and take care of. And in all my studies, we learned about all kinds of systems there isn't time to even discuss about, but there are all kinds of these systems that are in place, the plants, the animals, the water, and how it flows off the land, and down the rivers and into the oceans that are necessary for our survival. And they are all functioning without us, despite us usually, despite all the things that we're doing. And so as we live and grow and put in more impervious surfaces and more buildings and bigger houses, it all puts a footprint impact on the earth, which reduces its capacity to do some things. And so those are all important parts of the system that God created, that what I would call God's love for us surrounds us in all these ways, and that takes care of us each day, every day, all the time, without us even thinking about it. So with that, then I wanted to really kind of move us into what are some of, to help you focus and think about some things and some challenges. I'll name 3 big challenges that I've seen in my career that I think are still prevalent today. You hear about it in the news, that we have challenges in terms of natural systems and functionality in the earth that we need to pay attention to. One is clean water for everyone. It's essential for us, and there are all kinds of threats that get into the water. Originally, before we were here on the landscape and doing all the things that we're doing, there was plants and animals and grasses and prairies and forests everywhere doing things that cleaned up the water as it went into the ground. There are aquifers, which are layers underneath the ground made out of sandstone that have holes in them that hold water. And we have polluted the surface waters of our lands in so many ways by the chemicals we put on, and have compromised that. And in lots of society, particularly in Minnesota, we live off of clean water that comes from the aquifers underneath us, in the ground layer, and the sandstones and the limestone layers that hold clean water that was put there 15 to 60,000 years ago, based on our studies of time frame and signatures of the water, age of that water. And so we are living, and when you turn on your faucet in your home, you're getting groundwater as your supply. If you live in Lakeville or Apple Valley, they have wells that go into the ground, and they pull up this water that is put down there long ago, before there was all these chemicals and everything we've created on the earth. And we are taking that water out, and as we take that water out, as it rains and all the stuff that we put on our lawns and the fertilizers and the chemicals and to kill bugs and pests and stuff like that goes down, because as the water gets pulled out down below, it is recharged from above, and everything that we're doing on the land starts to filter its way down in. And so our future supplies of water for drinking that are clean by the way God designed it for us are being threatened because we're using that groundwater up and it's being replaced by water that has a lot of extra things in it that we designed for other purposes. We didn't want it to go in there, but that's what's happening. And so there's a threat to our water supplies. You've heard about climate change or changing climate or the world getting warmer, and in my job we paid attention to that because we saw that in terms of flooding and how much it rained, and we kept track of how much rain was coming down. But as there is more energy in the planet and the temperatures, is that more evaporation, water comes up into the skies, and then we get these systems that come down and we get, it used to be 6 inches of rain in 24 hours would be called a 100-year flood, but now we're getting sometimes 10, 12, 14 inches. I've never heard of the term atmospheric rivers, but places in the country are getting water that just keeps on coming. And so if you pay attention to California, they go through droughts, and then they go through periods of flood where there's all kinds of water. And so the system is becoming out of balance, and the systems that we have to depend on in the future are affected by all these things. And so we have some challenges in how we manage that and things that we can do. And then the third thing I would say is that energy, sustainable sources of energy. We have been depending on the dead bodies of plants and animals from dinosaurs back that rotted and decayed to turn into oil and gas. We've been using those supplies, but if you drive on the highway and there's cars everywhere, we're using up those sources of energy, and we need to find sustainable ways to live with energy sources as we go forward. And so there's problems with nuclear, there are problems with even solar panels and stuff like that, is that everything requires metals or something else, wind turbines. So there's all kinds of challenges with sustainable energy that we have to figure out how to do as we live on this planet and try to live on it sustainably, so it's not only good for us but also good for our future generations of students here, and when you grow up and have kids and children too, is that the earth needs to last long enough for all of God's people to have things in the future, and so, but we're using it up faster in our own ways and methods these days, and so it's not a sustainable course. And so that's the backdrop of things, and so what we would like to know about, and over the course of my career, we tried, like I might have said this before, we tried to teach adults about things that they should change and they don't really like to change. So what I found out is that when people have a inspiration or a passion or an energy or something that they care about, they will change their behaviors. You can't tell people they have to change behavior. You got to want to change your behavior yourself. And so what we're looking for are areas that we have some energy, some interest, some passion, and that we'd be willing to change ourselves, so that as we go forward we say, let's start with the things that we can do ourselves. And so the 3 problems I named are huge, they're global, they're challenges, and they're easy to say, oh, what can we do? It's so big, there's nothing that we can possibly do. There is something that we can each do, and it's changing behaviors. We're a pebble in the pond, is that as you learn about some of these things, you can take it forward and say, you can tell your friends, you can tell your family, things that you learned about or shared about nature and God's creation, and some ideas, like I say in the book. Take a copy of this Gift to Be Simple book, and that will help us all change in ways, small ways, so that we can lead towards a sustainable future. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, and I want you to start talking about things that you are concerned about, things that you have a passion for. We'll even take questions. We'll try to write them down, and I'll probably say, that's a great question. We don't have time to talk about it today in enough detail, but we'll capture it for some of these questions and say, we'll talk about them in the future. We can have additional forums, we can do small groups, we can do presentations of some sort so that you can engage. So today is kind of more about you telling us what's important, and then we'll try to then build that back in future opportunities to say, where do we go, what do we want to do, what do we want to learn about, and how can we change to take care of God's creation better for us and our future generations. With that, maybe we can turn the lights on?
Yeah.
Energy.
Who wants energy?
Energy demand.
Energy demand, okay?
No, it's just commenting what the light's going to.
Oh. Well, we can work in the dark too, but a fair point.
We are, in a way.
But energy demand is a challenge, and it is something that we can manage, we can make choices about, and we can reduce some of those energy demands just by the things we do in our own home every day. So that's a good thing. What's something that you thought about that's either you're concerned about, or you feel like we should do something about, or opportunities? Yes, Candy?
I'm concerned about all the chemicals that are used, not only on lawns and things like that, but also on our food. I'm concerned about all the chemicals that we use on our non-native lawns to make them look pretty and green, and they really don't serve any purpose other than aesthetics, and also on all the chemicals that are used in our food that we eat and the effects that they have on our bodies. So.
Others? Don't be shy. What students from school? Anything you heard about, learned about?
Not a student, but
You're a parent of a student, and you heard some of the things they say.
well, it's similar over the chemicals, the forever chemical, which has been kind of more in the headlines lately. I know the EPA is working on trying to control some of that, but there's more that they can do. So,
Thank you.
Oh,
Hey, way to go.
Like what we use to clean, what chemicals we use to clean our house, and like if it gets water stuff, water supply.
Yeah, great.
Microplastics that are just getting into the fish and wherever else, and now we're eating them, and we don't even know that they're kind of in existence because they're just always there and so small.
Yes, we have plastic in everything, it seems like, and it all breaks down into these tiny little particles, and it gets even into our bodies. It's appearing in glaciers and up on the tops of mountains too, and that's not good for us.
One of my wonderings is about, like when I go to the grocery store, I come home with all this stuff and it's all packaged. And so how can I buy things in a more efficient way that helps the environment rather than having to throw all that packaging away?
Yes, that's good. Packaging is a big deal, and it's usually associated with plastics or
CKAGING.
yeah, okay.
That's a terrible spell, I'm sorry.
Packaging. And there are ways that we can shop, and places we can shop, where you sometimes bring your own bags and look for products that don't have as much packaging. But a lot of those packagings are put in place because of health department requirements to protect people from all kinds of germs and other things. So there's things that we've done to make it simple and easy, but it also has a lot of consequences.
Also, a lot of packaging for like things that you get off the shelf at Target, at Walmart. And that is a construct of those companies that it has to be this size. So you get a bottle of vitamins that's, there's only a third of the bottle that has anything in it. And that's because of the construct of the stores that it's got to fit in this area. Here's the size it's got to be.
They also package things to prevent theft.
They also package things to prevent theft.
Yes, things tend to disappear off the shelves without being paid for, and so they put in all kinds of measures to try to prevent those things from disappearing out the door, but it requires additional materials and packaging and makes it impossible to open them.
Absolutely.
One of my concerns is how best we can recycle. Because I know people who do wishful recycling, and my concern is that they throw everything into the recycling hoping something's recyclable. And is that more harmful than helpful? So more specifics about how best to recycle, how we can make the most of that.
Great point, and recycling companies, and usually it's through your local unit of government or county. It is challenging. I mean, like if you throw bread bags and things like that into recycling, it just, they have systems and it jams up the conveyor belts and all kinds of other stuff. And so you can do some good, but you can also create problems if you don't follow the rules. And that's a challenge even at church here, is that, what's the message to say? Napkins are compostable. And we should, just small things like that, is that you put it in the right bin, and it's not easy, but take some time to learn what is important, and or ask questions if you don't know. Is that the better that we do some of these things, the easier it makes, and it makes the systems go more smoothly.
How about edible bananas? I mean, edible napkins. Edible napkins. Well, anyway, what I was thinking
High fiber content.
They're somewhat nutritious, I mean, by adding what we wipe our faces with. Anyway, I was thinking about anticipatory research. Right now, we're doing reactionary research because we've created problems that need solving, and research needs to be done regarding that. Now, I don't know if this is anything worth commenting or making note of, but anticipatory research means that you probably try to find out what problems might be caused by what you're doing and put a little more thought effort into that sort of effort.
Thank you.
So I don't know the word for it, but I have a 21-year-old college student who buys clothes online from China and really, really cheap, and they only get to wear them probably twice, they fall apart, and where do they go? So I think that's a big issue right now with a lot of people with the clothes. Like, I'm a thrifter, so I think, you know, there's a lot of other things that they could be doing. They come with lots of packaging, and they just get thrown away.
Good comment. Quality of what we do. There's something in this system of economic growth and development is called planned obsolescence, is that making things so that they fall apart, so that you have to buy more often and more frequently. And one of the things that, at least when I grew up, is that there was stuff that lasted for decades and many times, many years, because it was very well built. But that meant that you couldn't sell refrigerators very often because they didn't break down and fall apart. And so there are things that we have done to create an economy that depends on us buying and spending stuff, and that just uses more resources. And those resources, like we talked about, you put them into recycling, they aren't recyclable very easy. When we put these things together, you got to take them apart, and that's the hard part. And so there's a lot of challenges about how we have designed the system to support an economic system that puts a lot of pressure on the earth and makes some real challenges for how we live.
Ocean level rise.
Ocean level rise. Good point. There is a warming of the planet. There were tons of, not tons is not the term for water, but so many thousands of gallons of water tied up in ice pack. In fact, many places in the world, the whole ecosystem and the plants and animals that live there are dependent on that climate. And as things get warmer, they are no longer able to survive in those kind of situations. And then that water runs off and it goes into the ocean, and we see that rising. And lots of the population of this planet, people live near water, and they live not that far above sea level. And my parents lived in Florida, and I looked at a map that they said in 200 years, if the ice keeps melting, is that half of Florida is going to be underwater. And you look at all the cities around the world who are close, there's all kinds of problems that come with infrastructure and sewage treatment and all that other stuff that are at risk, or people's homes and livelihoods from that ocean level rising. And so there are consequences of just the water melting off from the warmer temperatures.
On a more positive note, I read that in Europe they're packaging their fruits and vegetables in these kind of cardboardy containers with just the plastic on top. But the flip side of that that's not so good is you can't see the bottom of the package to see if they're moldy. I'm always flippant to say, yeah, there's mold there, I don't want that one. So, I mean, that presents a problem too, but that's what they're doing in Europe to cut down on plastic. I believe in wood or something.
Yep. Then we put in preservatives of all kinds to make things last on the shelf life so that they don't get germs and make us sick, but there are consequences of that too. But for every challenge we do, there is another challenge, but that's what keeps us going.
Yeah.
Figuring out new ways to solve problems.
Which we created.
Right, problems we created. We usually find a problem, that we work hard to find a solution to that problem, but we don't think about what are the side effects or the implications of all kinds of other ways that, what does it then do to other things?
Food waste.
Food waste.
Yes.
Lots of food goes in the garbage. Lots of people don't have enough to eat. How do we build that system so that it's more distributed? Good point. Are there questions? Ask a question. See if you can stump us.
Upcoming question in the audience.
Upcoming question. Oh, here, I just turned it up. Yeah, Chuck?
This is a chance for me to get an answer to a burning question right now, because I'm downsizing. I've noticed that we collect things for our media, music, movies. I have boxes of VHS tapes. Okay, I can figure that one out. Do you remember a floppy disk? There's a series of different kinds of, yeah. And some of the floppy disks had a metal clip that held it together, right? It held the disk in there. So I'm looking at these things, and I have no idea what's on them. I got to get rid of them. All right, so now I don't know what the choice is. But my point is, technology changes the way we do things, and every time we come up with something new, we're leaving behind things that we no longer need. So that's an observation. The question is, what do I do with the floppy disk?
Recycling center.
Huh?
Go to the recycling center. If there's anybody that's experts on technology, it's them.
Each county has a recycling program, and that if your garbage company doesn't take certain things, like you can only oftentimes do 1, 2, and 5 on plastics, depending on which county you're in. But every county does have a recycling center, and they know the best options for reuse, recycling, or whatever for it might be, even if there isn't a solution. And there are some of these things that we create that don't have simple solutions, that may require even like sometimes they use high temperature incineration to destroy some of these things that are toxic too, but that also has problems too. But yeah, so I would say find out from your local, and you might have to drive. We drive up to the middle of Lakeville with our organics in the biodegradable bags and put them in the dumpster there. It's not like I can walk out and put it in the garbage can, and for organics, I need to travel someplace to do that. But we try to do it on the way to church or something like that. So there are opportunities for us to deal with lots of the things we have that are waste that are easy to just throw in the garbage.
Dave, just before we move on. Dakota County website does have a how to get rid of X, and you type in what it is and they'll tell you. And the place in our county is the recycling zone in Egan. But if you go to the county code recycling website, they'll have a spot where you can just type in anything and it'll tell you what to do with it, whether it goes in the trash or recycling.
Where is the Dakota County recycling zone in Egan?
Egan.
It's
just off 55.
Just off of 55 and Pilot?
I think it's by Yankee Doodle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yankee Doodle, turn left.
Okay, very
Or you
good.
can come
It's
off
awesome. There you
55
go.
and go south.
Get familiar with it so you can make trips there.
Dave, this is probably information you have. I don't know if you were talking about a theoretical with your example of where you have to go to get rid of your organic material. But there's a new place right on 140th Street that opened up within, I don't know, the last 6 months or less. So it's really not that hard, even if you don't have a backyard like we do with a bin to throw in those compost materials. It's getting better.
Whereabouts on,
Close to the high school, the new high school, Eastview.
It has a treatment center there.
oh, yeah.
It's somewhere within that property.
Great.
Two things. I live in Lakeville, but I do not use the Lakeville compost. We do have our own composting at home. But what I've started doing with a neighbor is she drives by that on a regular basis. So we combine our things that can't go in my home compost heap, like bones and things like this. So again, check on the city websites or whatever to see what they'll take, because a lot of this stuff doesn't have to end up in landfills. And the other thing is, yesterday I took part with the Lakeville Cleanup Day, and there were some exhibits there, and Dakota County Electric is also offering a lot of rebates if you buy battery-operated things like lawnmowers, snow blowers, things like this. So check with Dakota County too to see, or Dakota Electric rather, to see what they're doing to be a little proactive and not use as much energy.
Great, thank you. Joe?
Are there security issues with floppy disks disposal?
That's a good question.
There's not gonna be much information on there, and
You gotta have a machine to recover it, but
If you
still.
can't figure out how to get into it, it's not much risk there these days. They don't make those things anymore, so there's no readers.
You just drill a hole through them.
Right, but if you take your hard drive out of your computer, if you're gonna recycle it as well too, you can destroy that so your personal information doesn't get.
I've got a lot of little floppy disks, a lot of them. I only have a couple of hard drives.
Sail them off the Mendota Bridge.
Incidentally, just to finish that, I do have a long list of what's recyclable at the recyclable center. Long list. They don't mention floppy disks. They don't.
that's why you just gotta show up with them.
You got the last
Here,
one.
you never put this on your website.
I do spend a lot of time there, and I will find out. I'll tell you next week.
You probably got the last one.
What's that?
You probably got the last one, floppy disk.
I do, yeah.
We just dropped off a box spring not too long ago at Certified Recycling Center, which is in Burnsville. So they take some different things than what I have found out Dakota County Recycling took. So there's maybe a spot to get rid of your floppy disks there.
Good.
One thing I'll pound on a little bit is that we have all these things that companies make, but most of the time, things that are made are because we want something. And we as the consumers can control the industries and what they produce based on what we say we'll buy. Because if we don't buy it, they won't make money off it and they will change their ways. But if we keep buying it, they will keep on providing that. And so And I'll say, if the technology, the new computers, they don't last. Your cell phone, how long do you keep your cell phone? And all of a sudden you gotta have another one of those. And so that even drags us into issues like mining. Because you have technology in there that uses metals, heavy metals, nickel, copper, other things like that, that are necessary for those things to function. And so the more often you buy a new cell phone, the more they have to then produce something. And I don't know what the recovery rates are for how they get the stuff back out of cell phones and put them back into the system. I don't think that's even probably likely or possible. It's just not economical for them. And so when we buy more things and we don't kind of make do with what we have, then it causes the industries to do more, make more, because we're the demand. And so we can't control that if we change our ways and we say, I'm going to do without, or I'm not going to ask for that, or I'm going to try to get it fixed versus buy something new. We have a big power in the system if we do that well. So.
Dave, John researched it, it said they do.
Yeah. It says yes, except the variety. Oh, let's see. Can you say what it says?
Not sure. So I just looked up to see if the recycling zone in Egan takes floppy disks, and they do. We've actually brought a lot of e-recycling from the church here there as well, including disks that have taken historically.
And there's also a new company in Lakeville called CW Metals. And they will pay you if you take in your aluminum cans and any kind of metal like the yardsticks and stuff like that. But they also take TVs and computers and this sort of thing, and they charge by the pound instead of by the individual device. So we took 3 computers and a TV over, and it cost $17 instead of $40, and we took metal over as well, and we had a net gain of $4 because it wasn't like taking it to the dump. They actually will reuse metals and things. So CW Metals in Lakeville, they just opened up in the last month or 2.
Great examples. Another thing I'll touch on that we haven't talked about today is pharmaceuticals. And we are a society that needs pills for everything. And the doctors prescribe pills for everything. And a lot of times, even if it actually goes in us and out into the toilet, is that it ends up in the sewage stream, and the concentration of those things actually then goes through the sewage treatment plants, and they're not designed to deal with pharmaceuticals. They're designed to deal with biological oxidation demand and things that are organic and stuff like that. And so what we put into us ends up in the environment. And the environment, we are big people, and the environment is made up of small organisms most times. And so what we need for levels ends up in the waste stream, which ends up back in the natural environment. And so it's important to not flush stuff down the toilet if you don't need it or don't use it or things like that. You can't stop taking your medicines. Talk to your doctor about that. But there are some things that make sure that you do not use your toilet, or your drain outside, or dumping any oil or things like that. Make sure that you keep it out of the storm sewer systems, or out of your septic systems, or out of the plumbing systems. They try to take it to recycling, or even like on your, if you have prescriptions that are controlled, you can take them to the
City Hall.
Walgreens and
City Hall, Walgreens, the Sheriff's Office. There's places for you to dispose of those products that.
just Walgreens, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Got it. So lots of stuff that we do that we don't think about that can make a difference if we are more careful. All right, we are about out of time. Any last thoughts?
How many times have we seen pictures of the Earth lit up by the lights on the Earth itself? It's amazing, just the amount of energy taken to do that. Seems to me anyway.
A great point. We turn lights on because we don't feel safe in many cases in order to protect our properties or our people, or we think that, there's all kinds of things that we leave lights on. The cities at night for security purposes, things like that, but it does be a demand. And so turning off lights and reducing that is really an important way, things that you can do to lessen your footprint in terms of the energy side of things. So.
And light pollution for the organisms. A lot of organisms don't like. A lot of bugs and stuff don't like light, so light pollution at night can actually impact their habitats and life cycles and stuff.
Right, God made the light and the night and the day, and there are systems that function at night, and there are systems that function during the day. And so, yes, even at night, there's things that we can throw out of balance if we're by what we have done. So, last call.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome. I reiterate, check this book out. You can sign it out over there. It's a gift to be simple. It helps us think about what we really need to live rather than what we've been taught through society is to be happy. You have to have things. You have to have more of or bigger. And that is really a challenge that causes us health issues too, because we work harder, we spend less time with our families, all trying to accumulate things that make us feel better when it's really God that we're looking for. And so think about taking care of your needs and the needs of other people and the needs of the planet before you focus on your wants and what's the new thing I want or what's the improved thing I want. So thank you for your time. We'll try to do some more things and discussions, and thank you for your input.